Back on Foxborough Rush, George Balekji, Travis Thomas, Sean McGuire of NESN.com. S-Mac, how we doing, my man?
I'm great, George. How are you guys?
Doing good, doing good. So, Sean, we know you caught up with the head coach of UC Davis, Tim Plough, correct me if I'm wrong, but obviously the head coach for Lan Larison, Plough, the undrafted free agent out of UC Davis, freak athlete, played every position, special teams contributor. We'll get into that. But as I always like to start, when I love that you reach out to these college coaches, high school coaches, what was something that stuck out to you? We know what Lan Larison brings to the table. Running back background, athletic enough to play receiver, good route runner, can see him in the slot, gunner, returner. But what's something you learned away from what we know on the field about Lan Larison?
Yeah, and I to what your point is, I think we do know a lot of the on-field stuff. One thing that really stuck out to me, and kind of an example of the character, I guess, when you're talking about Lan Larison, he turned down like $500,000 going into his fifth year. It sounds like he had a lot of SEC schools, a lot of Big 12 schools kind of coming for him, and giving him money in NIL money. And he was a captain at UC Davis going into his last year. And he went to Tim Plough, and the way Coach Plough described it, he was like, Lan was really emotional in the moment when he was making that decision. But the fact that Larison didn't have a lot of college offers coming out of high school, I think it was actually only UC Davis that offered him, and so he kind of like stayed committed to him, and he's like, I'm a captain going into my last year. I don't feel like it's right to go chase money and kind of chase the bag, I guess, if that's how you want to put it. So he stuck at UC Davis. Obviously, he had an insane final season, his fifth season, record season for him. So that was definitely one thing that stuck out. I think there was another one that stuck out, and kind of two of the similar, character aspect sort of things. So Lan Larison, he tore a ligament in his ankle. And it was like a playoff game, UC Davis playoff game at the end of the season. And the way that Tim Plough is kind of telling it, he's like, that cost him the Senior Bowl, that cost him the Combine. Like, he would have went there, he would have performed well there. And you probably don't get him as an undrafted guy if that didn't happen. And a lot of the work ethic aspect of things as well. Lan Larison came back after 9 weeks. He was initially told 14 weeks, so about a month and a half before schedule, he came back. He did everything at the pro day. They were pretty much the coaches were pretty much like, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do this at the pro day. And he did it all. So it was, I think a lot of like those, character and toughness and those sorts of stories are, that's what you get from these, intel from the coaches.
Yeah, and I mean, that's Lan Larison. I love that you point that out. I mean, turning down $500,000 because that's a guy, he bet on himself. Now, if he gets to the NFL, sticks on a roster, makes it down the road, he can make more money.
Oh, yeah.
$500,000, tough to pass up on. But if you're going from UC Davis to the SEC, who knows what injuries could occur, bigger, faster, stronger at that level, get to the NFL, get that long money. Here's head coach Tim Plough on what he sees in Lan Larison from his interview with Sean that makes him ready for the NFL.
Well, I think his ability to catch the football out of the backfield is elite. I would imagine already he's got elite ball skills for professional football level. And, historically in the Patriot offense, the tailbacks are a really big weapon in the pass game. So I think that stands out to me. If you watch his tapes, I mean, just his ability to catch a football with one hand, his dexterity, eye-hand coordination, ability to run after the catch. I think that's a big deal. I think the other thing that makes him a varsity player for professional football is his versatility, because he's going to start on all four special teams. I mean, he was the best player in the country at our level, and he led our team in tackles on the punt team. How many star players are going to do that? So he was an All-American kick returner as a freshman. So there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to start on kickoff return, punt, punt return, and he's going to be elite at that. And in the NFL, you got to create value. So if you're third or fourth tailback on the roster, starting all four special teams, that type of versatility is very, very unique. And you see that, in the Patriots' history with a guy like Slater for all those years. Those are things that Lan knows. I would also say probably the last thing would just be like the humility of that. Like he knows that going to have to earn a spot on that team by being a special teams guy, by being a team guy in general, doing everything right. Those things are hard to find, I think, in professional sports nowadays. And so I think all that together, he's got some good skills in regards to his ability to catch football at the backfield, really smart. He's going to learn the offense in a week and know exactly what everyone's doing. Because he played quarterback and all that stuff. But I think it's his versatility in that, like, you put a guy like that on your 53-man roster, you dress 45 for a game, he can start on all four special teams, can line up at wideout, can line up at tailback. And now you got a guy that can give you a lot of different roles, which in the NFL I think is important.
Smeezy, we're going to get to another soundbite here where we start talking about player comps in the NFL. But I want to give my take on what I see with this kid, because this is a team that really doesn't have a ton of playmakers. We know we need more, and we've talked about the versatile skill set of this kid. I'm curious as to how he'll be utilized with the Patriots, because what I see when I see him, 6 foot, 215, decent build on him, I kind of see a little Taysom Hill here. But your coach talked about, player comps for this kid. Let's take a listen, and then we'll react on the other side, Smeezy.
Quietly, when I would talk to NFL scouts, I used kind of the comps of like Rex Burkhead, and Danny Woodhead, and Kevin Falk. Right? Like those are three names that I used to throw around. That he, to me, in the NFL, that's who he is. He's going to be your steady back that can play on all three downs, that can catch the ball out of the backfield, that can be great in pass protection, that's going to help you on special teams. He'll be as smart as the quarterbacks, and he'll be a guy that you don't want to lose. So I always told, it's funny, but I swear I'm not making it up. But I used to tell the scouts, like, he reminds me of all the Patriot running backs. The James Whites, the Kevin Falks, the Rex Burkheads, the Danny Woodheads, all those guys where you're like, who is this guy? Like, no one knew who they were. And they just kind of go out and get it done. They can line up an empty, play receiver. They can motion back in the backfield. They can, just a lot of different things that they can do.
Do it all.
Those are going to be those would be the guys that come out. I know the McCaffrey thing, people have pumped that before. I would hate to put that pressure on him. But I would say the thing that I guess is comparable is that he's as good of a receiver as he is a running back. And I think going back to like when you were talking, hey, he's got varsity traits. They probably got traits they have to work on. I think Lan, you got to remember, Lan's only played running back for like 3 years. He's been a quarterback his whole life. So I think he still has a lot to learn in regards to his fundamentals and his vision, his patience, the things that running backs need to be great at in regards to letting plays develop and knowing when to hit it, knowing when to bounce it. Those type of things that come with reps, he still needs those. And so if a team is willing to give him the time, which in the NFL you don't know if teams are going to have that luxury, but if teams are willing to give him the time, I actually think the best version of him is probably 2-3 years from now. When he gets more carries and just more reps at running back, I think the best version of him is still very much down the road. But I think the things he does really well are good enough to hopefully keep him in the league while he gets better at those things,
Jesus Cristo. I wrote down all these names, Smeezy. I can't keep track. James White, Woodhead, Burkhead, Kevin Falk. I mean, I was losing track of names. So let me write this down. Christian McCaffrey was brought up. I told you, I think I could see them kind of using them like a Taysom Hill. We're naming all these names. Can you just tell me, where do you think this kid lands in terms of how the Patriots will utilize him?
Yeah, and so the Christian McCaffrey was brought up because I kind of mentioned to Coach Plough how, right after Lan Larison signs with the Patriots, you have all these Patriots fans on Twitter and, X and everything like that talking about how they got the next Christian McCaffrey. Right. And I said, I'm like, I think that's a little bit of a stretch. That's probably unfair to him at this point. But so that's how the Christian McCaffrey name got dropped. I thought Rex Burkhead was a really good comp. Probably to me, probably the best one of the list that he gave. The size is pretty much exactly what Rex Burkhead was, and it's like that do it all. I mean, when Rex Burkhead and James White were together, James White was the pass catcher.
Yeah.
But Rex Burkhead he could do everything. He could catch the ball out of the backfield, pass protection, all that sort of thing. So I thought like that comp was very interesting. Travis, to your point about Taysom Hill, I believe it was one of the, who was it? Maybe Lance Zierlein or one of those, Chad Reuter, one of those guys at NFL.com.
All right.
That was the comp that they gave him on Lan Larison's scouting profile. So you might be onto something there.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but laugh at the same time too when Coach Plough said, like, I promise I'm not making this up. I swear I'm not making it up, because it does almost sound too good to be true. When you give 4 or 5 Patriot running back names and everything like that. But I thought that was great.
What I loved is that the pro comps he gave his Patriots running backs, I would give him a Julian Edelman. He said it'll take him 3 years. Edelman was a returner the first 3-4 years in the league.
Yeah.
Year 5, he broke out as a receiver.
Yep.
But that'll be Lan Larison. I think he makes a roster just because what he can do as a gunner and a returner, and his versatility as well, all that added depth. This is a guy that will find the football field. And what I love you pointed out too, he's not going in saying, I should be a running back, I should be a wide receiver. He's going in saying, whatever it takes for me to make the roster. So now let's go to this from Tim Plough on Lan Larison, knowing he was going to be a Patriot before the draft ended.
I tell you that it was a pretty funny draft day for us. We knew he was going to be, if he was going to get, we were being told by people, 6th, 7th round draft pick. And so on that third day there, we were all kind of on pins and needles, kind of waiting. And there were some teams that we had thought they had told us they were really interested. And so we were kind of waiting around. But I thought the cool thing was, Lan called me, I want to say, in the 5th or 6th round. I thought he was calling me because he got drafted. But he was calling me to say that he was already decided he was going to be a Patriot. And I'm like, well, you might still get drafted, Lan. And he's like, well, yeah, that's if I don't get drafted. And I was like, well, are you sure? And he's like, well, they were so aggressive. They were so forward thinking, and they were reaching out to him far before the draft even ended. And I think that, the personal calls from Coach Vrabel, those things, again, like, I haven't been coaching in the NFL. I have a bunch of buddies in the NFL, but those things don't happen in the NFL. Like, I know that for a fact. I know that the head coach isn't personally calling, undrafted free agent guys. And so I think that really spoke to Lan and his family that, like, hey, this guy's different. This culture, this environment, this franchise is different. And when he asked me what I thought, I said, Lan, that is the perfect place for you to go. Like, if that is actually true and they really want you that bad, like, you could not pick a better place, because I don't know Coach Vrabel personally, but I admire him a great deal from afar, from what he does and how he runs his program. And as an offensive coordinator, I've been stealing and pirating stuff from Josh McDaniels since 2011, so I think he's brilliant in what he does offensively. So everything he said was the first thing I thought was just, God, this couldn't be a better fit. Now, obviously, you got to make the team, and you got to catch a break, and none of that stuff's guaranteed. But if he is going to make the league and play for a long time, which I think he is, he couldn't have landed at a better place, whether he ends up sticking there or puts good film out there and someone steals him after the preseason or something. But I just think he's in a really, really good place. And, it was pretty funny to him to say, like, well, he knows he's a Patriot. The draft isn't even over yet.
Yeah, it's how the draft works. I mean, teams will contact the prospects. We're not going to pick you, but we will be signing you as a UDFA, excuse me. And it's also his landing spot. Checks all the boxes of what a Vrabel guy is, but it's to be with an offensive coordinator like Josh McDaniels, to be with a special teams coordinator like Jeremy Springer. That's what's big for a prospect like this, in my opinion, Sean. Yeah,
and it kind of what Coach Plough said kind of confirmed, I believe it was a Mike Reese report, that the Patriots, that they made Lan Larison, I think the wording was one of their richest deals for an undrafted free agent. I don't think it was the richest, but it was up there. And I think that just kind of goes to show, like, their aggressiveness as well. Not only were they thinking, forward thinking and making those calls before the draft ended, but when the draft did end, they backed it up. They wrote him the check and they backed it up. So I thought that was great insight too.